The developers designed it this way. You have to dig, you have to work, you've got to explore and understand who your character really is. And most players who play Earth spend their entire lives without ever fully knowing their character's true potential. And they get stuck playing Earth on the surface level, and they miss out on the depth that could change the way they experience the entire game. One of the goals that you get in the game is bringing new players into the game. My character recently committed to another character named Michelle, and we used the game mechanics and the in-game coins to bring another user into the game, and we named her Hannah. And she's just now starting the tutorial phase. And this is a hard mission, so I would wait until you think your character's ready, because the game mechanics make you literally walk the character all the way through the entire tutorial phase if you decide to make a new character. Even though they start going to a different map location where other characters are going to help them for like 8 hours a day, this is called school. So not all players get the same tutorial. Some get a pretty easy start, and some have to face some serious crap right from the beginning of the game. But no matter what kind of intro that you get, Earth hides a lot of key details from every character. And you might think you've got your strengths and weaknesses nailed down, but the truth is there's always more to uncover. There's abilities and traits that come to light through missions and unlocking new levels of Earth. So the true goal is to know your character really deeply. So the biggest mistake that players on Earth make is assuming that they know their character just because they've been playing it for a while. But if you really want to thrive, you've got to go deeper. Most people never reach this level of insight. They're too caught up in reacting to the game's weird randomness instead of taking the time to learn who their character is. The game developers didn't give you the answers up front, and they won't make it easy for you to find. But once you do, Earth upgrades from just a survival game into this badass quest of self-mastery with brand new level unlocks and a lot more coins after the upgrade. And then we have glitches. Here's one of the biggest things that nobody tells you when you start playing Earth. Your character is probably running way too many programs at one time. If you imagine having 50 tabs open on your browser all the time. So the game developers turned off the open programs alert by default. So most players don't even realize that it's happening. And these programs keep running in the background. They cause your character to lag, and they reduce our critical abilities, our focus, and our overall performance just goes way down. In Earth, these background programs could be anything from unresolved tasks, emotional baggage that your character tries to hold on to, distractions, or habits that just don't level up your character at all. And then we get into entropy. This is the silent killer. If you don't keep revisiting your systems, how you're earning in-game points and coins, and what you're focusing on and how you're playing, you're going to start trending toward entropy. And this is true for all video games. And entropy is the slow drift into chaos and disorder that stops your character from focusing on what really matters. So to beat entropy, you've got to study Earth. You have to study the mechanics of this game, its rules, its hidden systems. And the more you understand how the game really works, the better you can control your character's progress. But let's be very real here. Most players will not put in the time, which makes leveling up fairly easy compared to most games. And the good news for you is you don't have to do it alone. You can hire someone to hack your account for you, like a coach. Coaches have stuff.
Hey, let me get some more light in here. It feel like it's extra dark. What's hap? What's hap? Welcome to another episode of Expansion Pack. I'm your host, Dan F. Man. It's good to be back in here for another week, another Mindful Mondays. Today, we reaching Nirvana. That's the topic for today. Give me 1 second. Let me let some more light in here. Hey, so now that's much better. All right, y'all. So now that I got you in here, if you have not liked and subscribed the video, make sure you like and subscribe the video. I know I don't say it every single episode, but hey, it's implied. So let's get our motivation for the day started, and then we'll take it up from there. Lego, Belleo. motivation for today. Let's see what they got for me. I'm gonna scroll. My man's look like he got it. ET.
How much money do you spend per month living in New York City, including everything?
8K the last 2 months.
And what's your occupation? What do you do?
You've never looked at yourself in the mirror and said, you let you down. Until you get to that point, you let you down. Tell me what you complaining about. Winners complain. Winners want to hear themselves talk. Champions do not complain. Why? Because they're focusing on what they said they wanted to do as a goal. So the only thing you're missing now is, are you willing to get up and do the work? Well, we gonna complain, y'all. We gonna work. You have a chance to control your destiny. That, my friend, is the American dream, not a Cadillac. I need you to give you your best. Come on, I'm pleading with you. Look, I'm gonna say it one more time. I need you to give you your all. I didn't say your kids. I didn't say your spouse. I didn't say your best friend. I need you for the next 30 days to give you every single thing you got. So do me a favor, do you want it or not? The truth is, you gotta find something within. You gotta find something within, and that's gotta push you, and that's gotta elevate you, and that's gotta drive you, and that's gotta move you. Have you ever looked at yourself in the mirror and said, I'm not getting up on time. I'm not going to work on time. I'm not putting in 120% when I'm at work. I let me down. You are a champion. Think like one. I value myself enough to give 120% or don't do it. Rich people don't waste time. They realize it's their most important commodity. They don't watch a lot of TV. They don't do a lot of entertainment. If they're not working, they're studying their craft and getting better at their craft.
Sir.
Success, everything is gonna work out. It's not. It's gonna be a dog fight. You want what it looks like, but you don't want what it feels like. It's hard, it's tough. The investment is worth it. I'm telling you, set a standard. I went and got my GED, then I got my 4-year degree, then I got my master's degree, then I got my PhD. And I ain't smart, but I set a standard so when my kids came in this world, their mama got a master's, their daddy got a PhD, they at least got to finish high school. I set a standard. Multi-millionaire as a speaker from the bottom up. I set a standard. Right? And so what I had to learn how to do was, I had to say, yo, when the lights go off, who is Eric? What am I working on? What's my North Star? What's important to me? What makes me happy? And when you find out what your why is, and your why gotta be deeper than you, when you find your why, you don't hit snooze no more. When you find your why, you find a way to make it happen. You have full permission to be your greatness right now. You have full permission to be your greatness. Whatever your greatness is, you have full permission to be that right this second. Like, get to a point that if nobody else gives you any likes, or nobody ever comments on your stuff, or nobody ever says you're great, you're happy with what you do. Like, you love yourself and you happy and you do it for you. The dream is yours, but you're saying, I'm not worthy of the dream. You're probably not, but it's been given to you anyway.
Yes, sir.
I'm not smart enough. You're probably not. But it doesn't matter. It was given to you, and it's now your responsibility to do something with it. You've been given it. It's the gift that you never opened. It's the gift. It's yours. Do what you say you're gonna do, and you make no excuses, and you don't let nothing get in your way. I left. I was like, I gotta be in control of my life. And I wasn't mad at nobody. I'm not mad at nobody now. It's just I feel like I gotta be in control.
Yes, sir.
If something go wrong, I want to go wrong on my dime, not yours. I don't want to play by your rules. I want to play by my rules. Take control. Go for it. Please, you have to hear this. When I say I need you to be intentional and deliberate, hear me, I want to paint the picture. You have one team that has the ability to score. They have the ability to do well. They have the ability to score on the opponent. What their challenge is that they can't do it, they can't sustain it. You have one team that's good in spurts. You have another team that's dominant. The teams that are dominant because they can do it from beginning to end, right? Listen to me, and they can do it team after team after team, right? They can do it over and over and over. They dominate because they put pressure on you from the time you start to the very end. Like, oh, even when they're up, they continue to dominate. And your problem is you're not intentional and deliberate. You wake up on Monday and you might be strong, but by Wednesday, are you hearing what I'm telling you? You're not intentional and deliberate. You are hoping that the best is going to happen to you, and the best never happens to you. Like, and this is critical. What don't you have? Because all these things are going to stop you from getting to that next level. What don't you have in terms of getting to that next level? What don't you currently have? Because what you don't have, you need to start doing your homework so you can what? So you can go get that.
I want to be more bold and different, like not really having to follow trends.
You owe yourself. I didn't get here making excuses. It's your life. Only one person can stop you from making that become a reality, and that's you.
Oh my God.
And a lot of y'all scared. Just walk into it. Stop running from it because your life ain't sweet. It ain't like your life's sweet from running.
That's what means. Hey.
What's my North Star? Why am I here? What's my purpose? Like, leave your mark. That's why I'm so happy. I ain't happy because of no house. I ain't happy because of no cars. I know my purpose. But with this right here in your skill set, this thing can take you wherever you want to go and then take your kids wherever you want them to go. And you complaining because coach wants you to work and practice so you can get what you said you wanted. You mad at coach because he ain't gonna let you take no shortcuts because ain't no shortcuts on the next level. Y'all think you think this hard? Wait till you get to the pros. Most people were closer than they ever thought they were to finishing that big thing, but they never finished it because they didn't feel like finishing it. Or they were doing it and it was pain. And most people quit in the pain because the pain hurt so bad that they don't know if they want to keep going to get to go. But you've got to take your focus off of what's not happening and put your focus on what can happen. So if you're focusing on the negative, that's what you're going to get. That's what you're going to see. No more blaming. No more. I don't want to hear it no more. I don't want to hear this teacher did me wrong. This professor did me wrong. My mentor didn't. My mama didn't. My daddy didn't. Stop the blaming. If it's your life, I need you to take complete ownership of it. It's your life. I don't want to hear no more excuses. You blame, that's what you do. You make excuses for why you broke. You make excuses for why you stuck. And it is easier to make it somebody else's fault than to man up and look in the mirror and say it was your fault. It's easy to put it on somebody else. Why? Because then you ain't got to do nothing. There is no excuse for not living up to your fullest potential. No excuse.
Yes, sir. All right. Let's listen to some Sonic. Let's see. I knew it was gonna be some Sada Guru. Is ignorance really bliss, as they say, or does it cause suffering?
You are not interested in the Creator's creation, so magnificent. You are enamored by petty things, so you have to suffer. If you don't suffer, how? What is the value of enlightenment? You have to suffer. If ignorance doesn't bring suffering to you, why would you seek enlightenment? What would be the value?
Somebody said ignorance is bliss. They've always been selling ignorance, of course. See, I told you the power of marketing in the morning. People have been telling you ignorance is bliss. You know, during the 60s, people popped LSD and they began to think they're superhuman. And they jumped off tall buildings because they believed they're going to fly. And they did fly for some time. You know, when the Wright brothers flew, they were airborne only for 24 seconds, and that was a great feat. When I was 17 years of age, I built my own hang glider and I tried to fly down the hill. Because it was downhill, I flew. I believe it looked like a long time, but I believe I could have also done something 20 seconds. But then, when you realize it is not built to fly, then the bliss is over. I came down with 2 cracked ankles. But these people who jumped off buildings, they were blissful in their ignorance, till you hit the ground, of course. So if ignorance does not bring suffering to you, I would be disappointed with life. I would be very disappointed. Then all my striving and who I am doesn't mean anything, it's of no significance, it's of no consequence. No. If you're in ignorance, you must suffer. This is not my wish, this is the way of life. Whether you like it or you don't like it, that's the way it happens.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, let's see what's up. Let me get a filter on here real quick. Can I get that filter? One simple way to oh, I need this. I just wrote this. 3, 2, 1, let's go!
So, how to motivate you? See, when your car doesn't start, somebody has to push. Once it gets going, after that we don't have to push it all the way, then it'll go. We can teach you ways. When you start experiencing it as a part of you, it fires you up.
Many things in life, but I am lazy. How do I overcome laziness and stay motivated?
You must fall in love with somebody or something. If you don't find a somebody, you must fall in love with something. Something means something to you, you will wake up in the morning. Nothing means anything to you, where is the reason to wake up in the morning?
How do you fall in love?
When Shiva wanted to teach yoga to his first disciple, which was his own wife, Parvati, she was very eager to learn the way to enlightenment because she saw him as a glorious being and she wants to become like him. She said, "How? I'm ready to do anything." Shiva said, "No need to do anything, just come sit here on my lap." She hesitated because, "Oh, I don't want to be petted, I want to be enlightened." He said, "Relax, come and sit here." She sat here. He pulled her closer, not out of his needs, to fulfill her need. And he pulled her so closer, 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 closer. And slowly, she became a part of him. So there is a dimension of Shiva which we call as Ardhanari, where one half is man, one half is woman. What the imagery is trying to tell you is that it's only by inclusion It's only by inclusion that life will blossom. If you have to include something into yourself, there must be space, isn't it? If I have to make somebody a part of myself, I have to throw out half of me out, only then. That's why the expression falling in love, not rising in love, okay? Not standing in love, not climbing in love, falling in love, because a part of you has to fall. Only then there will be space for something else or somebody else. If all of you, the whole of you falls down, there'll be enormous space. You can include the whole cosmos as a part of yourself. If at least a part of you falls down, you may fall in love with one more human being or one more aspect of creation. So, we can teach you ways to empty yourself. If a part of you falls down, that empty space has to be filled with something. And that something which is not you, when it becomes a part of you, when you start experiencing it as a part of you, it fires you up. Because right now, what you think is me is not you, just a bundle of thoughts, emotions, ideas and prejudices, isn't it? That's not you. So what is you has not come into experience. So how to motivate you? When you're not yet, how to get you going? You're not yet. Right now all that is there is a bundle of thoughts, a cloud of thoughts and emotions and all kinds of stuff, isn't it? So that's why the sadhana. You must come and do some sadhana. Initially, somebody will motivate you. See, when your car doesn't start, somebody has to push.
Yes, sir.
Okay? Once it gets going, after that we don't have to push it all the way, then it'll go. So initially nothing wrong using a little bit of a push, everybody needs a push. There are very few people who can propel themselves from step one. Most others need push, often on a little kick here and there. The rest they will do.
Let me get one more.
Sadhguru, we youngsters nowadays have less control over our emotions. So how to react in situations where our beloved or close ones betray us?
This girl is already heartbroken. See,
Say, what do you do when you feel like the person in your relationship betrayed you?
somebody can betray you or you can think they will betray you only because you have unrealistic expectations of them. Well, if they do what they want to do, why do you think they have betrayed you? They're doing what they want to do, you must respect it. If you say, they're beloved to me, I love them. If you love a person, should you let them do what they want to do or should they do what you want them to do? For most people, love means you must do what I want. No, love means they can do what they want and we will love them, isn't it? You have this thing that if I love you, you must listen to me. No, if I love you, I want you to do what brings joy to you, isn't it? You must change the concept of your beloved.
But Sadhguru, I have a doubt regarding this. What if our loved ones are going in a way that's not good for them and we want to correct them and that's why we are telling them?
Then you should have been the mother. Because I'm not saying that it is never true that somebody may be going off track and you try to do something for them. I'm not saying it's never true, but you don't take this position that somebody is wrong and you're going to fix them.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
They're doing what they want to do, isn't it? What they want to do right now may not be beneficial for them, possible. But you must look at it sincerely. Are you complaining because it's not beneficial for them, or you're complaining because it's not beneficial for you? Most of the time it's this. Genuinely look at it. It's not beneficial for you, but it's good for them, please let them do it. But they are damaging themselves, yes, then you have a right to intervene and try to do your best. But not always can you enter somebody's life and do something for them. If I have to enter your life and do something for you, I have to earn it, isn't it? I have to earn a relationship where I can intervene in your life. If you don't earn that, you cannot intervene. So if you're unable to intervene, you must just understand you have not earned that closeness.
Alright, the reason I typed that in is because in order to reach Nirvana, you gotta have some sort of navigational system through ignorance. Alright, so, let's see this, let's see. And they actually got an answer. My man's got an answer, you ain't gonna watch him though. This video just a little too long. Let's see what they got.
A very good afternoon, sir. My question is that can we attain nirvana while staying in this materialistic world and society and performing our duties, or do we need to seclude ourselves to do so?
At the time of Buddha, I to some extent materialistic life already there, but then since then, Indian society as a whole, look, you see these kings, rajas, you see big building, that also materialistic way of life. But within that, through centuries, some individual, through their own effort, achieve very high sort of special realization, including nirvana. So why not? Today, 21st century, same human being, same potential. From the Buddhist viewpoint, particularly the Sanskrit tradition, everyone have the Buddha nature, Sukha Darshindaya, or Tathagata Garva. So long, clear light, there, Tathagata Garva is there. So entirely depend on one's own effort with fuller knowledge. That nirvana always possible.
Can we get a particular definite direction to it? Do we need a guru to direct us?
Hold on. Where?
Their mics is terrible.
Oh yes, he had. Oh yes.
I want to be able to, I don't know what y'all been hearing. I'm sorry, I had to
Correct. I think 11th century, about I think 11th century or 12th century, one Tibetan master, very famous Tibetan master, when he was about to die, some of his disciples asked him, till now we get because of the teachings from you, and we can take advice from you. Now you will not, no longer here. And what we should do? Who is the best teacher? ask him. Then his answer, you should not rely on person, but your teacher should be those texts. So text still available. As far as Tibetan Buddhist text is concerned, the translation from Sanskrit mainly, then also Pali, also some Nepalese, and I think around 10 books from Chinese translation. But the rest of about 300 volumes, all have a translation. So these are our sort of textbook. These are teacher.
Word. All right. Hold on. I just didn't like the sound on it. That's all. What is this?
The first path, realization, how it's possible that even stream entry, the first path,
Hello Bante. Buddhism is a religion that is made to make one individual the path to enlightenment. How can it be that you don't hear about Buddhists that become enlightened, Arahat or a Buddha? Thanks. Well, you're not talking to the right people, I guess. There's a lot of people out there who do talk about people becoming enlightened, Arahants or Buddha. But I imagine in Israel you wouldn't hear so much. But the other thing, I mean, the obvious answer here is that people don't talk about it. An enlightened being is incredibly disinclined to talk about their own enlightenment. Even a Sotapanna is someone who has just begun on the path to enlightenment, has given up that idea, and is incredibly disinclined towards bragging or announcing their enlightenment. So even Buddhists don't hear about it, and we generally speculate about our teachers and so on, and often that speculation goes overboard and suddenly everybody's an Arahat, everybody's enlightened. The reason you don't hear about people becoming Buddhas is because it's apparently not possible at this point. I think it would be impossible for two reasons. One is that the Buddha Sasana is still here, and two, so the world is not currently capable of supporting a private Buddha, a Pacceka Buddha. And two, a perfectly enlightened Buddha could not arise in this age. This is theory. I mean, it may all be wrong. I think it's just what the commentaries say, but the theory is that there's too many defilements, and their lifespan is too short at this point for a Buddha to arise. A Buddha would not arise at this time. The other thing is, first of all, we have a prophecy of when the next Buddha is coming, and we have an understanding that it's a very rare thing for a Buddha to arise. So the chances, even without that prophecy, of a Buddha arising in this day and age or any time soon is very, very rare, because we just had one. And there's some kind of gravity involved, I would say. I would speculate that anybody who was even close to becoming a Buddha had to have been drawn towards this Buddha. Like Mahakachayana, I think. Mahakachayana, I think, if I remember, or it was Kassapa, one or the other, was destined to become a Buddha, had made a determination to become a Buddha, and gave it up. I can't remember which one it was. See? Bad teacher. I don't know my stuff. But one of them. And they gave it up when they met the Buddha, because they realized that it was much better for them to become enlightened here and now and pass on the teachings, help spread the teachings here and now.
All right. I got a better question. How to do yoga?
Stop asking research questions to ChatGPT. Its answers are not reliable.
Oh man, they gonna flag me for this. We'll watch it anyway.
At some point between the 1st and 5th centuries CE, the Hindu sage Patanjali began to codify the ancient meditative traditions practiced throughout India. He recorded techniques nearly as old as Indian civilization itself in 196 manuals called the Yoga Sutras. These texts defined yoga as the yoking or restraining of the mind from focusing on external objects in efforts to reach a state of pure consciousness. Over time, yoga came to incorporate physical elements from gymnastics and wrestling. Today, there are a multitude of approaches to modern yoga, though most still maintain the three core elements of Patanjali's practice: physical postures, breathing exercises, and spiritual contemplation. This blend of physical and mental exercise is widely believed to have a unique set of health advantages, such as improving strength and flexibility, boosting heart and lung function, and enhancing psychological well-being. But what have contemporary studies shown regarding the benefits of this ancient tradition? Despite attempts by many researchers, it's tough to make specific claims about yoga's advantages. Its unique combination of activities makes it difficult to determine which component is producing a specific health benefit. Additionally, yoga studies are often made up of small sample sizes that lack diversity, and the heavy reliance on self-reporting makes results subjective.
Right?
However, there are some health benefits that have more robust scientific support than others. Let's start with flexibility and strength. Twisting your body into yoga's physical postures stretches multiple muscle groups. In the short term, stretching can change the water content of these muscles, ligaments, and tendons to make them more elastic. In the short term, stretching can change the water content of these muscles, ligaments, and tendons to make them more elastic. Over time, regular stretching stimulates stem cells, which then differentiate into new muscle tissue and other cells that generate elastic collagen. Frequent stretching also reduces the body's natural reflex to constrict muscles, improving your pain tolerance for feats of flexibility. Researchers haven't found that any one form of yoga improves flexibility more than another, so the impact of specific postures is unclear. But like other low-impact exercises, yoga reliably improves fitness and flexibility in healthy populations. The practice has also been shown to be a potentially powerful therapeutic tool. In studies involving patients with a variety of musculoskeletal disorders, yoga was more helpful at reducing pain and improving mobility than other forms of low-impact exercise. Adding yoga to an existing exercise routine can improve strength and flexibility for hard-to-treat conditions like chronic lower back pain, rheumatoid arthritis, and osteoporosis. Yoga's mix of physical exercise and regimented breathing has proven similarly therapeutic for lung health. Lung diseases like chronic bronchitis, emphysema, and asthma shrink the passageways that carry oxygen, while weakening the membrane that brings oxygen into the blood. But breathing exercises like those found in yoga relax the muscles. Bronchitis, emphysema, and asthma shrink the passageways that carry oxygen, while weakening the membrane that brings oxygen into the blood. But breathing exercises like those found in yoga relax the muscles constricting those passageways and improve oxygen diffusion. Increasing the blood's oxygen content is especially helpful for those with weak heart muscles who have difficulty pumping enough oxygen throughout the body. And for those with healthy hearts, this practice can lower blood pressure and reduce risk factors for cardiovascular disease. Yoga's most widely celebrated benefit may be the most difficult to prove: its psychological effects. Despite the long-standing association between yoga and psychological well-being, there's little conclusive evidence on how the practice affects mental health. One of the biggest claims is that yoga improves symptoms of depression and anxiety disorders. Since diagnosis of these conditions varies widely, as do their origin and severity, it's difficult to quantify yoga's impact. However, there is evidence to suggest that yoga can help reduce symptoms of stress as well as meditation or relaxation. Research on the effects of yoga is still evolving. In the future, we'll need larger studies incorporating diverse participants, which can measure yoga's impact on heart attacks, cancer rates, cognitive function, and more. But for now, yoga can continue its ancient tradition as a way to exercise, reflect, and relax. Though
let's just go into the first video.
The ancient Egyptians understood that they could use sound to reduce their weight and the gravitation.
If ever there was a tool that stood to rewire our attentional circuitry in a powerful way, this seems to be it. A simple practice taking 17 minutes can forever rewire your brain to be able to attend better and offset some of that attentional drift. Regardless of whether or not you're a child or you're an adult, whether or not you have ADHD or not, the effects are significant, they are long-lasting, and they appear to exist after just one session of this quiet 17-minute interoception. So let's take a step back and think about how we focus and how to get better at focus. And I'm going to share with you a tool for which there are terrific research data that will allow you in a single session to enhance your ability to focus, in theory, forever. And no, I'm not going to try and convince you to meditate. What we're about to talk about is when attention works and when attention falters. And what we are specifically going to talk about are what are called attentional blinks. We do this all the time, and people with ADHD tend to have many more attentional blinks than people that don't. And this is true for children and for adults. If you see something that you're looking for or you're very interested in something, you are definitely missing other information, in part because you're over-focusing on something. And this leads to a very interesting hypothesis about what might go wrong in ADHD, where we've always thought that they cannot focus, and yet we know they can focus on things they care very much about. Well, maybe, just maybe, they are experiencing more attentional blinks than people who do not have ADHD. And indeed, there are data now to support the possibility that that's actually what's happening. And that should be exciting to anyone that has ADHD. It should also be exciting to anyone that cares about increasing their focus and their ability to attend. What this is saying is that these circuits that underlie focus and our ability to attend and our ability to eliminate distraction, they aren't just failing to focus. That's just a semantic way of describing the outcome. They are over-focusing on certain things and thereby missing other things. And so our distractibility, or the distractibility of somebody with ADHD, could exist because they are over-focusing on certain elements and they are therefore missing other elements that they should be attending to. So what they really need is this property that we call open monitoring. Now, open monitoring is something typically is associated with people who have done a lot of meditation, so-called Vipassana meditation, or have spent a lot of time learning how to do what's called open gaze visual analysis and open gaze thinking. But there's a simpler version of this that allows us to bypass all that. Your visual system has two modes of processing. If you're very excited about something, you're in that soda straw view of the world and you're missing other things. Okay, that's high levels of attention. However, there's also a property of your visual system that allows you to dilate your gaze, to be in so-called panoramic vision. Panoramic vision is something you can do right now, no matter where you are. And I can do it right now. You won't know that I'm doing it, but even though I'm still looking directly at you, I'm consciously dilating my gaze so that I can see the ceiling, the floor, and the walls all around me. That panoramic vision is actually mediated by a separate stream or set of neural circuits going from the eye into the brain. And it's a stream or set of circuits that isn't just wide-angle view. It also is better at processing things in time. Its frame rate is higher. So this is something that can be trained up and people can practice, whether or not they have ADHD or not. What it involves is learning how to dilate your gaze consciously. That's actually quite easy for most people. Whether or not you wear corrective lenses or contacts or not, you can consciously go into open gaze and then you can contract your field of view as well. There are now published accounts in the literature of a simple practice done for about 15 minutes where subjects were asked to just sit quietly, eyes closed, and do what is sort of akin to meditation, but to not direct their mind into any particular state or place, but simply to think about their breathing and to focus on their so-called interoception, focus on how their body feels, if their mind drifted, to bring it back, for about 15 minutes. That might not seem like a significant or unusual practice, or that it would have any impact at all, but remarkably, just doing that once for 17 minutes significantly reduced the number of attentional blinks that people would carry out. In other words, their focus got better in a near permanent way without any additional training. There's something about that practice of reducing the amount of visual information coming in and learning to pay attention to one's internal state, what we call interoception, that allowed them an awareness such that when they needed to look for visual targets, when they need to focus on multiple things in sequence, they didn't experience the same number of attentional blinks. And I should mention, not incidentally, as people age and their working memory gets worse and their ability to focus gets worse, the number of attentional blinks that they carry out goes up. And there are now studies exploring whether or not this simple meditation-like practice of 15 to 20 minutes or so of sitting and just quietly resting and paying attention to one's breathing and internal state can also offset some of that age-related, what is called cognitive decline. So what these data tell me is that regardless of whether or not you're a child or you're an adult, whether or not you have ADHD or not, whether or not you're experiencing age-related cognitive decline or you would simply like to avoid age-related cognitive decline, a simple practice of taking 17 minutes, sitting and paying attention to your internal state, just interocepting, registering your breathing, registering the contact of your skin with whatever surface you're on, can forever rewire your brain to be able to attend better and possibly even offset some of that age-related attentional drift. Now, I don't expect anyone to start meditating regularly. I don't expect anyone to do anything they don't want to do, but I think most of us could handle one meditation session of 17 minutes or so. And so if ever there was a tool that stood to rewire our attentional circuitry in a powerful way, this seems to be it. And in addition, the ability to engage in panoramic vision, to dilate our gaze, this so-called open monitoring that allows the brain to function in a way that it can detect more information faster, that's a powerful tool as well. And the beauty of that tool is that it works the first time and it works every time. Now, how exactly it works is a little bit unclear. Nonetheless, the effects are significant, they are long-lasting, and they appear to exist after just one session of this quiet 17-minute interoception.
I like that. Let me see something. Interoception.
That's how the skinny people of the world are skinny. It's called the gut-centric theory of hunger. A study out of China took healthy volunteers and they put them on a 14-day water fast where they got nothing but water, with one exception. One group got 100 calories per day of prebiotic fiber. The folks who got the prebiotic fiber had no hunger, even with a 14-day water fast. Why? These guys were feeding their bacteria. The bacteria, in turn, sent GLP signals to the brain saying, hey, we're full. Ozempic works by using a pharmacologic dose of GLP. Our bacteria are perfectly capable of making that. That's how we discovered this hormone. So one of the keys for weight loss is you want to feed bacteria. It's remarkable how much...
Hope y'all heard that.
Interoception is our capacity to witness and feel the environment inside ourselves, from muscular tension to the beat of our heart, from the rhythm of the breath to the relative fullness of our stomach, from the soft calm of relaxation and laughter to the tense rigidity of fear and anxiety. Since inner sensations can often not be separated from emotion, interoception is a key concept in holistic mind-body practices and is an important indicator of self-awareness and well-being. Interoception is often considered alongside proprioception, which is the sense of one's body position in space. It is the awareness of your body in relation to the things around you. Interoception builds on proprioception by focusing on the internal experience. Proprioception is the awareness that might help you to avoid bumping into things, while interoception is the experience of pain in your body when you stub your toe. Interoception is also key to helping the individual regulate bodily needs, such as hunger, cold, and exhaustion. In other words, it is the experience of the embodied self. The range of interoception varies widely among human beings, as the experiences of one's life will shape the tone and texture of one's inner world. Trauma, disease, diet, socioeconomic factors, and dynamics of oppression can all intersect to inform and impact the character of interoception for an individual. For example, on the one hand, one can suffer from PTSD and experience reduced access to interoceptive awareness, often described as feeling nothing. On the other hand, one may suffer from acute anxiety disorder and experience a hypersensitivity to interoception, and in turn have more inner feelings than one can handle. These examples imply that interoception is a continuum, and extremes in either direction can throw us from our center. Contemplative practice and somatic forms of therapy in part aim to expand the orbit and balance the field of interoception as an aid to liberating individuals from unnecessary suffering. By developing a new relationship with our inner world, we can begin to taste the fruits of a more fully embodied life.
Another video to break it down for us, just because I'm in this game.
Hey y'all, it's Jess. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and to my series Autistic Hyposensitivity. So today we're going to jump into interoception. So here's a recap, or if you're new here, then sensory processing is how our nervous system receives, interprets, and then responds to sensory signals. And hyposensitivity is our sensory under-responsivity. It's when sensory input has a lower effect on us and we need more input to receive the sensory signal. Or we have difficulty interpreting or responding to it, or all of the above. So, talking about interoception. Interoception is basically the sense of your internal state of your body. So, I am hyposensitive because it takes a lot for me to identify if something is wrong internally. It just feels like sometimes I notice something's off and I can't put my finger on what it is, or it takes a really, really strong stimuli for me to actually process that I am feeling something. So my first example of this would be I don't feel hunger very strongly. Sometimes I'll mistake hunger sometimes I'll feel like I just ate a full meal. And that same feeling as being full is also the feeling of being hungry for me. And so I can not realize when I'm actually hungry. Another thing, I don't realize that I get thirsty. And then when I take a sip of water, I'm like chugging it, like, oh my gosh, I needed this. How did I not realize how thirsty I was? But I just don't process that I'm feeling thirsty. Sometimes I don't realize that I'm tired until I lay down and I actually feel like, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted. And I'm surprised by how tired I am, but I wasn't feeling the sensation of tiredness. It's kind of a weird one, but it's very common in autistic people who are hyposensitive. I can drink so much water and not feel the need to go to the bathroom until long time later. Sometimes I will forget. I'll feel like, oh, I have to go to the bathroom, and then I'll forget about it, and I'll forget to use the restroom. And I'll just go about my day, blah, 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 don't notice anything, and then later I'll be like, oh my gosh, I meant to get out of bed and go to the restroom this morning, and now it's dinner time. I've done that before, and it was really, really weird. Sometimes I'll feel something is off, something that feels wrong, but it takes me a while to recognize if it's emotional or physical. So sometimes I have like felt like I'm feeling anxiety, and I'm realizing, oh, I'm not anxious. I'm breathing irregularly, and so that's making my heart beat really fast. I'm not sure how much this is part of interoception, but I don't notice if I have physical sensations that correspond to emotions, and so like I won't feel like anything happen physically when I'm angry, and it takes me a while to realize, oh, I'm really mad right now because my face isn't heating up and I'm not like tensed or anything, like, and then sometimes it doesn't make sense. I love public speaking. I love getting up in front of a crowd or in front of a classroom when I was in college, or at a poetry slam and reading out stuff or public speaking like that, and I'm completely comfortable with it. I'll get up on stage and I shake like I'm terrified. And I'm like, why am I shaking? I'm not shaking from like excitement either. Just like any other like thing that I would normally do and enjoy. But I just like start shaking and people are like, you look terrified. And I was like, I was having the time of my life. It was fun. So there's that. That's about all I have for you guys today. Felt like it went by really quickly. That's all for today. I hope you guys have a
How many subscribers you got, girl? 6,000. That's what's up. Alright, cool. I'm not up.
Hey y'all, it's Jess.
Alright, let me see one more. So is it just simply something that was talked about in autistic circles? Let me see. Because we got the TED Talk right here on it. All right. See? Let me see. Because everybody else, I guess we just don't all pay attention.
Interoception is a word that you may or may not have heard being used a lot recently. It's been around for a while, but we're really understanding its impact on human development more and more with the recent research that's coming out. Interoception is your sense of inner well-being, your sensations from inside your body. And so it might be, it's a number of things. It might include how fast your heart is beating, your breathing, whether you're hungry or have butterflies in your tummy, your gut, what your gut is doing or not doing, whether or not you need to go to the restroom. All of these different things count as interoception. And as I said, what we're realizing, and the research is really supporting now, is how critical this sense is for human development. I'm Virginia Spielman. I'm the Executive Director here at Star Institute for SPD in Colorado. And today we're talking about interoception.
That's all I wanted to hear, to be honest with you. Let me see. Dang, I had what I wanted to type in. Let me go here first then.
Hey everybody, it's Dr. Joe and Mr. Bear, and today I'm going to show...
Sorry, Dr. Joe and Mr. Bear. Let me put this on. Put that filter on real quick.
Yeah, Dixby today. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for focusing on us this evening as we're working on our focus this evening as well. See if we can't boost our concentration. And our next guest is a multi-award-winning neurologist and best-selling author as well, with a passion for health and education. Please welcome to the show Dr. Sveta Datia. Thanks so much indeed for being with us.
Pleasure.
Really kind of you to be with us because you're here. I'm going to ask for some help if that's
sure.
all right.
Absolutely.
Because I've been doing what I always do, which is just nod and sound like I know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
But There was a phrase that Arslan used a little bit earlier on, which I nodded to and said, and pretended I understood. Neural plasticity.
Right.
It's a big word. And I've got to be honest, I don't really understand it. What is our neural plasticity?
Brain is just plastic, you can make it whatever you want to.
You can form it?
Oh yes, you can form it. So let's go back a little bit, I joke and I say I'm a brain plumber, aka I fix broken brains, but I think that's not a good job, that's not a very pleasant day job. What is really exciting is to build that brain, and that is where neuroplasticity comes in, So it's very interesting that we accept the brain as is. Oh, I'm stressed, and then I'm broken and I can't do this, but that's completely a no-no, because we can build the brain. So when we do the right things, Arslan was talking about, the nutrition, focus, mindfulness, exercises, we do build that brain. That building the brain is neuroplasticity.
So is the brain a muscle? Can you work it or not?
Well, let's talk a little bit about the brain. Do you guys want to guess how many neurons does a single brain have?
I'll know that one.
You
brought a brain.
I got a little brain with me.
Today.
Would you want to guess what is the total number of the brain cells that a single brain has?
Are we talking about how many brain cells I have, or like someone else?
No, just one single brain. You don't want to borrow other brains, other brain cells, but yeah. What is the guess? What is the rough guess?
Okay.
Our loved ones shape our vision for the world. So when their vision is at risk due to wet AMD,
Arslan, go for it. I'm not doing this.
I
don't know. I'm going to be completely
billions. It's roughly about 86 billion neurons, trillions of synapses, the memory capacity. If I want to draw all the memory from this brain, I would have to stack up an entire Burj Khalifa. It is 2.5 petabytes. And 1 petabyte is 1,000,000 gigabyte. So if I have all these wonderful things there, why am I not performing? That is the key. Why am I not performing has two simple reasons. One is because I don't understand it. What should I do with it? So to your question, is it a muscle? Well, it's a very, very complex and sophisticated, orchestrated muscle. And we need to really understand the basics of it so that, we can do it right. We can do the things right. There are 4 fundamental brain waves. As I'm talking to you guys, as I was excited and coming here, it's beta. It's all beta, beta, beta. As I close my eyes and I sit, I go into something called alpha. And as I go a little bit deeper, let's say I'm meditating, or just before I go off to sleep, there's something called theta. And then when I fall asleep, it's delta. Now, you were talking about that, Tom, that we live in this distracted world. We live in this, what I call the hyper beta world. Everybody is all the time going. My beta is firing. So technically, we live in a beta fried brain world. Let's put it that way.
Love that.
And we really need to move from beta to go into, I ask this question to a lot of people. And by the way, I do see patients as well. And I run a lab called Limitless Brain Lab, because you want to get all the limitless potentials through the neuroscience. Very simple question that I ask to people is, in a single day, how many times do you produce your alpha? Which is simply closing your eyes and sitting. And the answer comes, Never. Or sometimes under 1 minute, under 2 minutes. Now, if you want to build a muscle, I don't tell a deltoid or a bicep saying, hey, build it, biceps, I want you to grow. What do? I work for it. So if I want to build my alpha, I need to close my eyes enough in a day, which is 5 to 7 minutes, which is nothing but type of meditation, let's put it that way, and build that alpha. Most of the times we are in this alpha and theta deficit. The world is going through that. So my simple and humble this to every single person is, spend at least 5 minutes breathing well. We don't breathe well because we breathe from the superficial chest and we're not serving ourselves. Kai was talking about the balance, right? The balance between the it means I was attending, right? My attention was good. So balance between the parasympathetic and the sympathetic system, right? We are continuously firing our sympathetic stress, all the things all the time. My heart is racing, my breathing is super fast. That's not helping. All I need to do is get back my honored brain. How? By breathing right, by eating right, by sleeping right. There was a statistics which I was reading, and you guys will be fascinated by that statistics. If I don't sleep a single night, let's say for a week, under 5 hours, so I sleep less than 5 hours in an entire week, I lose 711 genes permanently. I sleep less than 5 hours in an entire week. I lose 711 genes permanently. My genes for expression for heart, my genes for expression for cholesterol are lost for good. Imagine the night outs what is the cost of that?
I can't imagine. I sleep at 9:30, 10, so I think I've got that under control. But yeah, just a couple of quick tips from you on what we can do on a day-to-day basis, again, to reduce. You said breathing. We're not talking about napping here. We're just talking about relaxing, actually closing our eyes. Yes. You said 5 minutes. How often in a day?
Beautiful question. So we have devised at the lab something called movers. It's a very, very simple thing for people to understand, right? M stands for meditation. O is ocean breathing or oxygenation. Let's put it by deep breathing, we are also enhancing the oxygen. We is visualization. So, I want to visualize and be clear on what I want next. What is my week looking like? What is my month looking like? What is my year looking like? And then those little dopamine check boxes. The moment I put a checklist and I am checking all of it, what I'm doing is a reward to my brain, which is dopamine. E stands for exercise, moving. I think Kai was also talking about it. Very, very important to move. R for reading. And reading what? Getting up in the morning, I call it the delta to beta state. I'm asleep. The moment I wake up, I start browsing my my mobile. And what is happening is I'm again firing my beta brain. So reading what? Reading something affirmative, reading something positive. And the last one, scribing, writing out all that is negative. Just, dumping it away, what is bothering you. It's like a catharsis. You let it go. 5 minutes each of that would roughly be about 30 minutes.
Wow.
In a day.
So I'm interested in the sleep aspect of it. There's so much out there about sleep and what is optimized sleep or not, because we're talking about optimization here. What is the optimized definition of good sleep?
See, the sleep has to go through certain stages. There are two important stages. One is called the non-REM and second is called the REM, rapid eye movement and non-rapid eye movement. Now, technically, we need on an average 8 hours because I want the first 4 hours to be non-REM and the last 4 hours to be REM. That cycling is very, very important. Let's say if I sleep late, like she said, I don't go to bed at 10 and I go to bed at 1, I lost the non-REM, which I lost it for good. And if I wake up too early, I lose the REM. So ideal is about 8 hours, roughly. It's a range, 7 to 9, but I should be able to cycle that. And very, very important, before I go to sleep, I think this is the most important time that we often miss. It is called the theta state, where I want to really work on myself, not with the blue lights and not with all the shining stuff around. I really need to get into that state because that is the time when I can optimize my health, I can optimize my well-being. Let's put it that way.
Doc, you are full of amazing advice and you have such great energy. You're one of my favorite guests for a long time. Thank you so much for...
When can I retire? At Fisher Investments, we know a lot goes into that question, which is
coming on today. Well, before you can stay seated for just a minute there while Amy's got something important to do right now. Do we need to shift the spotlight to someone?
Yes, we do. It is now time for DXP in 60. Oh, I don't know why I'm holding that. It doesn't say on there. But that's the name of the show, just in case you didn't know. And we're going to get to know you a little bit better, Aslan. So we've got some quick fire questions that we're going to do within 60 seconds. Are you ready?
No pressure.
60 seconds on the clock.
What are these questions?
Let's go. What was your first job?
Oh, well, we ain't got to watch that part.
Hello, Earth citizens. This is Linda from Brain Education TV. If this is your first time, welcome. Please subscribe to this. Hello, Earth citizens. This is Linda from Brain Education TV. If this is your first time, welcome. Please.
Anyway. Check this out. This is education for y'all.
Whether you're in a deep sleep, taking a test, or watching a YouTube video, your brain is abuzz with activity. There are millions of electrical pulses passing between neurons that are sending messages to each other. When those signals spread, clusters of neurons start getting feedback from others, and networks of cells synchronize their firing. It becomes a repeating cycle or rhythm, a brainwave, or as neuroscientists call them, neural oscillations. That organized electrical activity is strong enough to be detected by electrodes on the scalp, with a technique called electroencephalography, or EEG. And that's allowed us to study brainwaves to try to make sense of the brain. While things are still pretty mysterious, lately we've been making strides to link brainwaves to things like consciousness, memory, and maybe even certain diseases. Now, brainwaves aren't one size fits all. There are actually lots of different electrical patterns defined by their frequency. They're measured in cycles, or the number of times the neurons are firing per second. Brainwaves also vary in amplitude, with lower amplitudes as they speed up. There are 5 main types, and there's no hard and fast rules about their functions. But generally, The higher frequency the wave, the more alert and awake you are. So the slowest of these 5 waves, which are of relatively high amplitude, are delta waves. They're typically linked with deep sleep. Slightly faster are theta waves, which are often associated with daydreaming or meditation. The next step up are alpha waves. These are common when you're awake, but relaxed, like when you still have your eyes closed. Beta waves are even higher frequency and lower amplitude, and seem to happen when you're awake and thinking about something. The smallest, fastest oscillations are gamma waves. They tend to be around when you're deeply focused on something. Now, even though we talk about beta waves when you're in class, or delta waves when you're sleeping, for simplicity's sake, the reality is that your brain is abuzz with all different frequencies of waves. It's just that certain ones are more dominant at any given moment, depending on what you're doing and how you're feeling. If you're chilling at the pool and sometimes closing your eyes to bask in the sun, you probably have a lot of alpha and theta going on. But there's still some beta waves in the background. It's not like your brain has the exact same wave frequencies throughout the whole thing. If you look at the readings from individual electrodes on an EEG, you can see that different regions of the brain are more commonly linked with certain waves. Alpha waves, for instance, are usually strongest at the back of the brain in the occipital lobe, which handles vision. One of the amazing things about brain waves is that these common frequencies are remarkably similar across different species, like cats, bats, and us. But at the same time, they might be very different between individuals. Some neuroscientists have even proposed that a snapshot of all the waves going on in a brain could be used to identify a person, like a fingerprint. So in some ways, measuring brain waves could be very powerful. Like, I can probably guess the moment you open your eyes just by looking at when your alpha waves drop off. Kind of freaky. And doctors have successfully used EEGs to diagnose people with epilepsy. Brainwaves punctuated with spikes are telltale signs of a seizure. We still don't fully understand why we have these rhythms in the first place. One popular idea is that the synchronized firing allows neurons to better communicate with one another. Recent work even suggests that the use of different brainwaves helps us learn. Researchers gave monkeys a test where they had to learn to associate pairs of images through trial and error. They found that when the animals got an answer right and received a reward, their brains seemed to be using beta waves to communicate to the hippocampus, the brain's memory center. When the monkeys got the answer wrong, theta waves dominated. So, beta waves might be a way of reinforcing neural connections to improve memory, while theta waves are a way of saying to the brain, hey, oops, forget that. Gamma waves are especially interesting to neurobiologists too, because people with Alzheimer's don't seem to use them as much. In fact, in experiments with mice, restoring gamma waves reduced the amount of beta amyloid, the plaque protein associated with the disease. The researchers genetically modified mouse neurons so they would respond to light, and then flashed pulses at a gamma wave frequency for an hour a day for a week. The animals that received this treatment had half as many plaques in their visual cortex compared to controls. The team thinks that gamma activity somehow makes immune cells in the brain better at gobbling up the plaques, and also changes how the protein is processed, leading to less plaque in the first place. Scientists aren't sure why gamma waves would do this, but their work suggests brainwaves can actually change the biology of the brain, and this could be huge. If you could figure out how to trigger gamma waves in people, they could be used as a treatment. But we really have no idea how to do that yet in humans, and of course, we don't know if it would actually work. Still, even if we don't totally get why they exist or how they work, it's clear that brainwaves are pretty important. Understanding the electrical activity is just as important as understanding the chemical processes when unraveling the mysteries of how our brains tick. Thanks for watching this episode of SciShow Psych, which was brought to you by our patrons on Patreon. If you'd like to help us make more episodes like this, you can go to patreon.com/psych.
We're going to do one more just to get it a little bit simpler for y'all. Dr. Joe.
The pineal gland has tiny little cilia, hair-like extensions all around. Learning how to regulate and slow your brainwaves down is something that we've been very, very interested in. When you teach people how to do that, it could become a skill. And when the brain starts to relax and it moves into less of that chatter that takes place in your brain and more of kind of an imaginary state, the brain sees in pictures and images, it's more creative. We're moving into that alpha state. So now the door between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind opens up as we get beyond our analytical mind. And our analytical mind is actually what separates the conscious mind from the subconscious mind. So as you slow your brainwaves down and you get into alpha, you're entering the operating system. And that's where you can rewrite a new program. That's where you can rehearse a new script. That's where you can begin to plan your behaviors in an intentional way. If you can't change your brainwaves, then it's like your computer running amok with all of those programs and you yelling at it, telling it to stop. You're not in the operating system. Some people can get to the point where they're so relaxed that the body's in a light sleep, and yet they're conscious and awake, and now they're in this theta brainwave pattern. And in theta, that's a hypnotic state. We're very suggestible to our thoughts. We're very suggestible to information in that state. And that state then is where we see the most change take place. And so the person can literally change from the inside out when they learn how to get into the operating system. People do the best with what they think is available. That's my belief. And if you're unaware that you can control your emotional states, you'll rely on something outside of you to do that, whether it's a computer game, whether it's a Netflix show, whether it's a drug, whatever it is that you need to make that feeling go away. You're dependent on your outer world. And I think that's a hypnosis, that's a conditioning. To teach people that you can actually regulate and change your emotional states, you give them the tools to literally step into a new future. So that process, of course, is extremely uncomfortable. And the question is, how long are you going to stay in that emotional state? And 50% of the story that most people tell about that past experience isn't even the truth. Because they're making things up, and they're doing that so that they can justify why they haven't changed since some past event. Most people reach a point in their life where they reach crisis, or disease, or diagnosis, or loss, or betrayal, where they finally go, gosh, it's time to change. I think change is an ongoing process, and the more we change, the more we should see evidence in our life. That makes it exciting. Anger and frustration and control and hatred and envy and jealousy and insecurity and unworthiness and guilt and shame and suffering and depression, those are all derived. Those are emotions that are derived from the hormones of stress, and psychology calls those normal states of consciousness. Those are altered states of consciousness. Because in stress, emotions that are derived from the hormones of stress, and psychology calls those normal and suffering and depression. Those are all derived. Those are emotions that are derived from the hormones of stress, and psychology calls those normal states of consciousness. Those are altered states of consciousness. Because in stress, the physiology is that we're knocked out of homeostasis, we're knocked out of balance because we're perceiving some threat, some danger, some emergency. And so the stronger the emotion you feel to whatever stressor there is in your life, the more you pay attention to it. And so in time then, you have to keep your attention on all the important elements in your life. So you sit down to do a meditation, and when you're living in stress and you're living in survival, there's only 3 things that are important in that moment. Your attention is on your body because you got to preserve it. Your attention is on something in your environment, and what's in your environment? People, objects, things, places, and you're very preoccupied with time. And when you're in stress and you're in survival, the brain goes into a default mode, and it's naturally trying to predict the next moment based on what it's learned in the past. And so as you'd always try to forecast the future based on your memory of the past, you can't be in the present moment, right? So, and yet our model of change, what we discovered is that the only way a person can change is when they get beyond their body, they get beyond all the elements of their environment, and they get beyond that predictable fusion of familiar past, and they sink into the present moment, which is the unknown. So if you can't do that because of the hormones of stress, most people will sit down and they'll say, okay, I'm going to close my eyes, I'm going to start this process where I'm going to rehearse how I'm going to be today, and they start thinking about their cell phone. They start thinking about all their emails, and they start thinking, I can't meditate. There's something wrong with me. It's my mother's fault, and they actually believe that thought to be the truth, and then they get up and they actually reaffirm it, and they say, I can't meditate. Now, I can tell you that if you are willing to see that thought as just a thought in your brain, and you're curious what's on the other side of that thought, yeah, you're going to feel uncomfortable. But if you had some tools and skills to apply, and you were able to take your attention off your cell phone and settle your body.
Squarespace's creative tools let you design a unique, engaging
back down into the present moment, that would be a victory. And then your body would say, come on, you gotta feel a little frustration now. You gotta be impatient. You gotta be judgmental. Come on, that's what you always think. That's how you always feel. And you, like an animal, you settle the body back down into the present moment and you tell it it's no longer the mind, that you're the mind. That's a victory. Then the body says, hey dude, you're super busy. You got a lot of things to do. You got a lot of people to see. You got a lot of places to go. You got a lot of things to do. And you've been doing the same thing every day. Your body's going to want to get up and do something. You're going to want to quit because your brain's telling you that you can't do this. If you had the awareness to settle the body back down into the present moment, you would be executing a will that's greater than the program, because most people lose their free will to those programs. And it's that tedium in the beginning that is an uncompromising will, where you keep training the animal to stay, to take all of its attention off the environment, to get beyond all the cravings, the feelings, the habits of the body, the drives of the body, and catch yourself defaulting to that predictable future, bringing the body back into the present moment, siphoning energy back, your attention into the past based on those familiar emotions of the past. We've discovered that if you're willing to do that for just a few days, you could actually liberate an enormous amount of energy from your body. You go from particle to wave, from matter to energy, and you're literally transmuting those limited emotions into elevated emotions, and something really beautiful happens if you're willing to fire the crucible and sit through that long enough. All of these emotions move, that energy moves right up into the heart, and the person starts falling in love with life. They start feeling this state of gratitude, this gratefulness to be alive, this ineffable word of relaxed and awake. And something really magical happens when we've discovered this little simple thing. When that energy makes it to the heart, there's only one place it wants to go, and it goes straight to the brain. So the person starts relaxing into their heart when they feel this feeling, and the more they relax into the heart, the more their brain all of a sudden starts becoming aroused. And they start going into these elevated gamma brainwave patterns. Now, gamma is not unconscious. Gamma is actually super conscious. It's actually super aware. You're outside the program now. So when that occurs and the brain goes into gamma brainwave patterns, what we discovered is it's not a little gamma. It's not a lot of gamma. It's not a whole lot of gamma. It's a supernatural amount of gamma. And we start seeing these brainwaves where we see theta start carrying alpha, and alpha starts resonating with beta, and beta starts creating high beta, and high beta starts creating gamma. And you see these standing waves of brain coherence happening. And the person feels so amazing that they don't want the moment to end. And so we see when they put their attention on their heart, like filling a gas tank, we see on the gauge on the scan, this very low frequency start rising in the heart. The energy that's the heart uses to function actually goes up because they're placing their attention there. And where they place their attention is where they place their energy. And then you see the parasympathetic nervous system come up with it. That's the nervous system of relaxation. And then we see it kind of drop. And we see the sympathetic nervous system starting to go up. And now sympathetic regulation is an arousal, right? But the arousal isn't fear. The arousal isn't hatred or aggression. The arousal isn't pain. That's the arousal created from survival. There's only one other arousal, and that's ecstasy. That's bliss. And the person starting to go up. And now sympathetic regulation is an arousal, right? But the arousal isn't fear. The arousal isn't hatred or aggression. The arousal isn't pain. That's the arousal created from survival. There's only one other arousal, and that's ecstasy. That's bliss. And the person all of a sudden feels connected to something greater. Now, here's the beauty. We could see people do this in 15 minutes. The most important takeaway around all of this is that feeling that they're feeling is not coming from anywhere outside of them. No person's doing that. no wardrobe change is doing that, no sports car, no football game. Nothing is doing it to them. It's actually coming from within. That is the moment they stop looking for it outside of them, and the love affair begins. And so when we start feeling these elevated emotions, these more selfless emotions, it's not like you have to try to forgive. It actually is the side effect of you changing your emotional state. You no longer want, because you feel so whole. How could you want anything? So we started interviewing people when they had these moments, and they had such an incredible amount of love that they felt. We measured their oxytocin levels, their love chemicals were very elevated. The amount of gamma in terms of coherence was 200, 300, 400 standard deviations outside of normal in coherent gamma. Now, 3 standard deviations outside of normal in gamma is about 2% of the population. 200, 300, 400, a lot of energy in the brain. So the brain all of a sudden is receiving an enormous amount of energy. So we've discovered relaxed in the heart and awake in the brain. And that process of transformation is your willingness to sit past that thought, past that emotion, and keep training the animal, and sooner or later you can recondition it to a new mind.
The compound urolithin A seems to act similarly as exercise would.
It's hitting the same biology that you would expect.
When I was in medical school, we had and I think I even write about this in the book, we had a pathology lecture where the professor stands up there and he says, what is the most common presentation of a heart attack? And, us keener first-year med students, hands shoot straight up. Chest pain. No, that's not the most common. Shoulder pain. Arm radiating down the left arm. No. Nausea. No. Shortness of breath. No. We rattled this off for a few minutes. And he goes, death. The single most common presentation for a myocardial infarction is death. More people. Now, I would say today, that was 25 years ago. Today, it's probably not the most common because advanced cardiac life support is so much better, but it's still strikingly common. So,
well, you could say that the best predictor of a heart attack is still a heart attack.
This is just one of those things where we're gonna spend a lot of time talking about things that feel good and feel bad when you change them, right? Like if you take a person who's not sleeping well, but who thinks they're sleeping well, and you ask them for a leap of faith, which is, hey, give me a month to help you sleep really well. Yeah, you're going to feel better. You might not know it now because you don't know how bad you're sleeping now. You've become acclimated to this. But this is not one of those domains. Exercise, nutrition, sleep, all those things, when you do those things better, you feel better. But, I don't want to overpromise on this. You're not going to feel better in the moment when you fix your lipids, but you'll feel better when you don't have a heart attack.
So by all this logic, everybody should get their ApoB measured. How early in life should people do that? Starting in their 20s, in their 30s?
Certainly if you have a family history that is of any concern, like if I could live my life over again, if I knew everything, then that I know today, yeah, I would have had mine measured in my 20s. I didn't get my ApoB measured for the first time probably till I was in my 40s because, that's... Well, yeah, maybe late 30s, early 40s, right? I had my first calcium scan when I was 35, and I had to beg, borrow, steal to get it done because everyone was like, why does a 35-year-old want to do this? But I just felt something was wrong given my family history. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did that because I learned something that completely changed the direction of my life.
Okay, I know my ApoB numbers and that I might be that guy who's up in the, above 100, so I'm going to get this treated. That's a promise to myself. We covered the 3 major risk factors, which were blood pressure, keeping that in check, don't smoke, and ApoB. And we've now talked about the things to adjust ApoB levels. We did not really talk about things to adjust blood pressure. I'm assuming exercise sits as one of the foremost.
Exercise, nutrition. Yeah, weight management is a huge one here. So, you take a person who's blood, and this is one of those things where we don't immediately jump on the pharmacotherapy train with blood pressure, because here there are side effects sometimes. And you do have to worry about overshooting. You don't really have to worry about overshooting a person's lipids. We do back off if we overshoot, but it doesn't cause a symptom. There's not a short-term immediate risk from doing that. If you overshoot somebody's blood pressure medication, you trade one problem for another problem. They become lightheaded when they get up to pee at night. They fall and bang their head. That's a devastating consequence. Totally unacceptable. So our goal is to see how much we can lower blood pressure without medication before we turn to medication. And let's be clear, the meds today are so much better than they used to be. Again, there was a day when the side effects of these medicines were miserable. That's simply not the case today. I mean, ACE inhibitors, angiotensin receptor blockers, I mean, these things are very well tolerated, especially the ARBs. So again, almost anybody can be on these things. But if we could get a person to lose 10 pounds and exercise every day, we see great effects with zone 2 stuff, right? So kind of the low intensity cardio.
What's and your recommendation there? I know you talk about this in the book, but I've thrown out numbers about 150 to 180 minutes per week. You go a bit higher.
Yeah, we go 180 to 250, 240. Yeah, I'd like to see 3 to 4 hours a week of zone 2. So that's an important piece, and sleep is an important piece. So get the sleep right, get the exercise right. If you're overnourished, let's correct that problem. And if all of that doesn't work, and by the way, that works a lot of the time. That works most of the time. If that doesn't work, then we've got pharmacotherapy. There is still a true phenomenon of essential hypertension, which is in individuals for whom all the fixable stuff has been fixed and they still have high blood pressure. We still have to medicate those folks. By the way, there's something that I want to mention here that doesn't get much attention, but it's so important, which is the effect of high blood pressure on the kidney and also the brain itself. We've talked about the brain, we've talked about the heart, but the kidney doesn't get enough attention. The kidney is a remarkable organ. And I think if you're really in this game of trying to live longer, right? If you think, hey, maybe we'll live 80, 85 years, but if we kind of start doing all of these other things and really optimizing our behaviors, that could be 95. Well, you have to start thinking about the capacity of the kidney. And once the glomerular filtration rate falls below a certain level, you have to be very careful with how you live your life. And unfortunately, this is one of those things that is another sort of mistake that's made in kind of modern medicine, which is we don't pay enough attention to how to measure kidney function correctly. We rely very heavily on something called creatinine, as opposed to looking at another biomarker called cystatin C, which is far more accurate. And we also tolerate too low of a kidney function for a person's age. So we look at, we might look at someone who's 50, whose kidney function is at 65% and say, you're totally fine. Because it's true that at 65%, there is no problem. But you're not thinking, well, if this person has to live another 40 years and this continues to go down, they're going to potentially be staring down the barrel of needing dialysis the last 5 years of their life. Again, you want to die with compromised kidney function, but never from compromised kidney function. In fact, the hazard ratio of all-cause mortality associated with compromised kidney function is even greater than that of heart disease. Once you cross that threshold, lights out. Once you are needing dialysis, your risk of death is higher than that of someone with high blood pressure, smoking, even someone who has cancer. You have a higher risk of death having end-stage renal disease than you do having cancer. So the kidney is so sensitive to blood pressure. This is a tiny organ that on every pump of your heart is getting 20 to 25% of your blood.
Okay.
Wow. So just imagine how sensitive and susceptible it is to elevated blood pressure.
Yes, sir. Hey, I need to see blood pressure.
Legends on 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Go that, please now.
Let me see.
This is about high blood pressure. What is it? Normal blood pressure, first of all, is 120/80 in the adult. There are different measurements. This is about high blood pressure. What is it? Normal blood pressure, first of all, is 120/80 in the adult. There are different measurements in children and infants and teens also. Hypertension, which is high blood pressure, meaning that hyper meaning over or above, and tension meaning the tension of the contracting muscle or the arteries. And so that's hypertension means high blood pressure. 140 over 90 is considered to be high blood pressure. However, the doctor will need to assess the person that thinks they have high blood pressure. You might go into the emergency room and you might discover that they take your blood pressure and it might be 175 over 100 or something that's really abnormal. But the doctor may not put you on blood pressure medication at that time because he doesn't know the history. He doesn't know what's caused it. He doesn't have all the tests in front of him. So when he does that, he's going to want to know that there's going to be some follow-up on that. He might give you something initially to help you, but it's not going to be perhaps long-term blood pressure medication because you haven't had the diagnosis of hypertension or high blood pressure because you haven't been able to record it over a period of time.
Right.
So he's going to assess you, the doctor is going to assess you and to get some more information before they're going to put you on blood pressure medications normally.
High blood pressure response, shown by the blood pressure cuff showing high blood pressure in the vessel, describes one main system designed for decreasing blood pressure. The atria-release atrial natriuretic peptide, or ANP, shown as an A tree releasing another A tree with a natural red-haired man laying in it. This is due to the detection of high blood pressure. It causes vasodilation, the vase died, by dilating vascular smooth muscle cells and inhibiting vasoconstriction mechanisms. ANP also antagonizes aldosterone, the ant toga with aldosterone.
It's known as the silent killer. 1 out of every 2 adults will develop high blood pressure, which can lead to a host of problems, including heart disease, stroke, and blindness. Dr. Amar Hassan, Assistant Professor of Family Medicine from LSU Health Shreveport, is here to talk to us about prevention and further information on this topic. Well, Dr. Hassan, thank you for being here today. 1 out of every 2 people. I mean, this number is alarming, right?
So, Priscilla, let me make it a little more alarming for you.
Oh, no. Okay, give me the truth.
So the thing is, if you look at the World Health Organization, overall there's 1.13 billion people affected by high blood pressure. And about 7 million people annually die because of causes of high blood pressure.
Oh, so that's not good, but
yeah.
Thank you for that stat. How identifiable is the cause of high blood pressure?
So that's the thing, like you said, it's the silent killer, right? So if you're not monitoring it, it's really hard. You have non-specific kind of symptoms like headaches or lightheadedness, or you can get a little nosebleeds or shortness of breath, some chest pain, but these things can happen in any kind of disease process.
Right, and some of those you wouldn't even know, right? Like if I just got a headache, I might think I'm looking at my screen too much or my prompter. What is considered dangerously high blood pressure?
So dangerously high blood pressure, as in hypertensive emergency, is considered blood pressure above 180 over 120. But it's also with symptoms like, for example, end organ damage aspects, like is it affecting the kidneys, is it affecting the brain, is it affecting the eyes, like you were talking about earlier.
It can obviously affect many things. So how do you feel when you have it?
So when you have hypertensive emergency, you don't really feel good, right? Because you're having symptoms like high blood pressure, symptoms like headaches and lightheadedness and dizziness. Some people even have chest pain and shortness of breath. But again, majority of people, even with that high blood pressure, might be asymptomatic, meaning not have symptoms at all.
Or you may think that feels like a heart attack, right? What are some of the causes of high blood pressure?
So there are causes considered modifiable causes or non-modifiable causes. So modifiable causes are such things as being obese or increased salt intake or living a sedentary lifestyle, or not having increased caffeine, or being on things like birth control pills or NSAIDs like
birth control pills can higher your blood pressure?
Sometimes birth control pills can increase your blood pressure, yes.
Well, how can we lower our blood pressure quickly? Or can you not lower it quickly?
So before I talk about that, there's also non-modifiable things like your age, like your gender, like your demographic. Like African Americans are more prone to having high blood pressure than others. But that's why it's so important to work on the modifiable things.
Are there certain foods that can assist with lowering it? Or we didn't even tackle our last question.
Yeah.
Is
I don't want to hear no more. All right, now
what can we do to lower our blood pressure quickly?
Yeah, so not taking too much stress, that's one thing. Eating
Is
a
stress
healthy
the number
diet.
one, doctor, for the blood pressure? Because I hear that time and time again, but I want you to kind of...
So stress is something that our whole community, society is under 24/7. It increases cortisol, which increases blood pressure, and other kind of hormones attribute to that as well. Smoking session is another big thing that you can stop. Drinking alcohol to an excess is another thing that you can stop. Exercising, you want to exercise about 150 minutes a week. That's really important. Moderate to vigorous exercise is important, or even brisk walks. Do brisk walks. That's important.
Okay. Are there certain foods that can assist with that?
Yeah, you can do certain foods, like it's called the DASH diet. And
DASH diet.
DASH diet. Yeah, dietary advisory diet, kind of increase whole grains, increase dairy products. You could increase lean proteins like fish and chicken. You can increase fruits and vegetables. Those things are important.
But stress, I hear you saying that's the main one for us.
And listen, don't add extra salt to your food. That's another one thing. Sodium, salt increasing. You have it in chips, you have it in energy drinks, you have it all over. So just because you're not adding salt, that doesn't mean you're not getting salt from other places.
Oh, correct. Now there has been information out there that says that aspirin lowers high blood pressure. We are running out of time, but
yes.
Is that correct?
So that kind of, sort of, the studies are not there yet, but the thing is, if you take it at nighttime, it can decrease your blood pressure just by a tad bit, but that's not the primary thing that we use for lowering blood pressure. There's so many different things, but if I were to say one thing, monitor your blood pressure, work on your modifiable things that you can, work with your primary care provider to help you decrease your blood pressure, because that decreases aspects of heart disease, strokes, coronary artery disease, as well as chronic kidney disease.
And last question, because we're out of time.
Yes,
can you cure it if you do all of those things? If I'm lowering my stress, my diet, real quick, yes or no?
So it's a maybe, because if it depends on modifiable or non-modifiable, but majority can have it in control, and that can help a lot.
Okay, all right. Well,
I hope y'all picked up some facts here. Oh, what happened to my camera? Oh, turn the game off. Sorry, y'all. Hold on. My control that. There we go. Give me 1 second, y'all. Devices. All right, check it out. Watch this.
I'm so excited about this. I matched at Advent Health, the emergency medicine program there. Advent Health was my first choice.
My parents worked hard for everything we had. They taught me the value of $1 and how to use it wisely. Those lessons are forever. And today, I share them with all our employees.
There are certainly ways to improve your overall ability to remember information, like getting more sleep or taking B12 vitamins, but this video is not about those tricks. It's about a type of memory tricks called mnemonics. But what is a mnemonic? Well, mnemonics are memory tricks that can help you remember long strings of information, often in a particular order. Mnemonic devices have helped people achieve phenomenal feats in the world of memory, from memorizing 40,000 digits of pi to knowing the order of a whole deck of cards. You can use them to help you remember phone numbers, create a more secure password, or maybe one day break a world record.
All right,
so let's start off.
We're going to go ahead and get up out of here for the day. I hope y'all got some useful tips to help y'all reach Nirvana. We talked about high blood pressure. We talked about brainwave states. We talked about different breathing exercises you can do. All of these things in yoga as well, or stretching. All of these things are designed to take you from where you at to where you want to be. I'm not addressing children on my show, where it is A child really ain't gonna grasp the concepts of making themselves better unless they're very mature or advanced. But we adults, we should at least understand the concept of going from point A to point B. Now, is your point A to point B going destroying or taking away from your life, or is your point A to point B adding to your life in a way that is progressive or a way that it's enhancing your being here, your existence here? If it's not, then point A to point B is actually going backwards. Even though it's A to B, it's going backwards. So let's take some of these tips, use them, and let's make our lives, enhance our lives. This is another episode of Expansion Pack. You know what we do here. I just be getting off early because I be ready to get back to playing the game and doing other stuff. So I'm going to holler at y'all later. This is another episode of Expansion Pack. Like I told you, DGTA TV. I'm your host, Dan F. Man. Peace. Chill.
Order. Let's move on to number 3. Some people don't remember PEMDAS. They remember it as, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. If you were taught this trick to remember how to solve math problems, you weren't using an acronym. You were using something called an acrostic to help you remember information in an important order. An acrostic is when you turn an acronym into a sentence to increase the likelihood of recalling it by giving it just a bit more meaning. Take a moment to think of some other examples of acrostics. Every good boy does fine is probably familiar to people who took an elementary school music class. My very educated mother just served us 9 pizzas is also a great way to remember the order of the planets in our solar system from the sun. Usually, the sillier and the more unique that they are, the easier they are to remember. Now, this is also a great method in creating a secure password. Try to think of a quote from a movie that you like, one that would be easy to recall. For example, the famous line, "May the Force be with you" from Star Wars. Now that sentence is likely too long or too easy to be a password, but MTFBWU is a more random password that is easy for you to remember, but more difficult for someone to guess. If you add some numbers in another favorite quote, then the strength greatly increases. Number 4 is a memory palace. Now you might be familiar with this mnemonic if you've ever watched Sherlock Holmes. Started with the ancient Greeks, a memory palace is a virtual palace in your mind where you associate items to objects in each room. See, most people start with their childhood house or a current house because they're most familiar with it. You go around to each room and you try to pick out 4 to 5 specific objects to remember. These are called your permanent items. And then once you have those memorized, and you can easily recall them, for example, let's say the 3rd item in your 2nd room, and you can do that reliably, then you can move on to associating things with each permanent item. Humans have an associative memory, which is why this technique works so well for those who invest in it. If you want to remember the order of a deck of cards, you can do it pretty easily with a memory palace. You just assign each card to an object in your house using association, and then you should be able to recall it with ease. But this mnemonic takes a lot of time and practice to develop, and it shouldn't be used for things that are time sensitive. However, it is great for knowing the order of lists that are larger than 10 items. I have a whole video coming out on this soon if you're interested, so go ahead and click that subscribe button if you aren't already. Number 5 is rhyming. Another mnemonic device that seems to work well, especially when we are children, is simply rhyming things. It works great with music too, and it works well with other pieces of information.